Yo, we've got brackets, baby. Oh my gosh, it feels like Christmas Eve, and we have to wait a few days before Christmas morning shows up, but we've got an official field in the NCAA tournament, and man, I could not be more excited. We have some really great matchups. We have some matchups that I think could lend a lot of value from the betting side of things, and we also have some games, obviously, with the play-ins that will determine, how a certain first-round matchup actually formulates on the back end of them. But my goodness, man, we are here. I'm so excited. In this episode, we are going to be talking about our bets for every game in the first round, or at least the games that we're betting on. I'm not going to be covering every game in this first round. I will have a video kind of breaking down the entire bracket and giving my thoughts on every game, but these are going to be our best bets here in round one of the NCAA tournament, and I'm excited to jump into them here. But first, we do need to take a second to shout out today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. And if you haven't already signed up using promo code ROBDFB, I highly recommend you do so, because throughout all of these postseason tournaments, we are going to have Underdog Pick'em entry slips posted on my Twitter/X page at RobDFB. But with all that being said, y'all, I'm jacked. I'm excited. I'm ready to talk about our bets in round one of the NCAA tournament. All right, first up, we're heading out to our first play-in game here on Tuesday between St. Francis, PA and Alabama State. And when you're looking at this matchup here and how both of these teams sort of emerged into the NCAA tournament field, they both had to go on their own respectable Cinderella runs. And St. Francis, PA, their Cinderella run was rather eventful because it took place on campus sites. They were underdog in every single game, and they also won at the buzzer in two of them as well. And even in the finals, it came down to the final possession against Central Connecticut State. And we look at Alabama State. They have had a similar track. They went to overtime to beat the number one seed Southern. And if we're looking at how both of these teams are playing coming into the field, I actually think that Alabama State is clearly the better team. And for that reason, I am so willing to lay the 3.5 points here with the Hornets for 2 units for our first bet here in the NCAA tournament. For pick number 2, we are going out to Wednesday's play-in games where we have Xavier taking on Texas. And when you're looking at this matchup here, I think it's a really fun stylistic matchup. And in particular on Xavier's side, this is a season that fell short of their expectations. They had dreams of being, a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. And now they're sitting right here in a play-in game on the 11 seed line. And I do think that when you have those kinds of expectations coming into a season, it can weigh on you, especially on the front end. And I think it very clearly did when you look at how their season played out. And on the back end of their regular season schedule, I thought Xavier was playing some of the best ball in the entire country. And unfortunately, they did let a game go in the Big East tournament against Marquette. They were up by double digits in the second half and then just couldn't get it done. But in this game here against Texas, I do think they get it done. And I am so willing to lay the 1.5 points here for 3 units for our second bet here in the NCAA tournament. For pick number 3, we're heading out to Thursday, the first round of the NCAA tournament. And we're going to be taking a look at a matchup here between UNC Wilmington and Texas Tech. And listen, Texas Tech is one of those teams that I think could absolutely make a run to the national championship if they are healthy enough. And that's ultimately the question, because when we just saw them get bounced against Arizona in the Big 12 tournament, they were resting 2 of their key starters. And I do wonder, whether or not those guys are still dealing with ailments that were prevalent going even all the way back to their last game against Houston in the regular season. And that was like a month ago. So I do wonder about Texas Tech's health, and I think we're going to find out a lot about that in the coming days here. But in this matchup, I think they're laying a number that suggests that they're fully healthy. But even if they are fully healthy, I think UNC Wilmington is a good enough squad to at least keep this thing close for a full half. And for that reason, I am so willing to back those 16 points here with the Seahawks for 3 units. And if we can catch Texas Tech kind of in a lingering state of attrition, I say we go ahead and place a half unit on the full game money line here as well. For pick number 3, we are heading out to a game between Drake and Missouri. This is a very popular upset pick as expected because Drake has been a wagon in the mid-major leagues all season long. This was a team that if they would have lost in the Missouri Valley Championship game, probably gets an at-large bid, or maybe not. Who knows? I don't know how they do the bracketology stuff, to be completely honest with you, but Drake is a very good team. And Ben McCollum is a very good coach that I think can really introduce himself in a massive way to Division I hoops with a run in March this season. And I do think they're catching the perfect team, a team that is very volatile, a team that relies heavily on jump shots. And when you look at Drake, this is a team that's going to limit your possessions, limit your shots on offense, and they have probably the most efficient scorer in the entire tournament field when you're looking at Bennett Sturts and how he handles these late game moments. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and ride kind of this public wave on the Drake Bulldogs for 4 units. And for an additional full unit, let's go ahead and take Drake on the outright money line here as well. For pick number 5, we are heading out to a game between Utah State and UCLA. And when you're looking at this matchup here, Utah State is one of those teams that I really liked at the beginning part of the year because of how they were playing teams, because of how they were covering. But there was a term and on the back end of the season where I really do think that the other teams in the league caught up to them, and they started to slow down. They started to kind of struggle in a lot of different areas, and UCLA is a team that I kind of think did the opposite, where they started off the conference season in the Big Ten slow and then really picked it up on the back end. And I get it. Utah State is going to be a very popular pick here because of them being a prominent mid-major, because of them having a really nice win-loss record. But I do think that UCLA is the better team. I think they're the better coach team, and laying 4.5 points, I'm willing to lay it with UCLA for 2 units for our 5th bet here in the NCAA tournament. For pick number 6, we are heading out to a matchup between High Point and Purdue. And when you're looking at this matchup here, High Point is a team that, let's just say, has the power of friendship on their side because they are a team that truly runs 10, 11 deep. And they did so in the Big South tournament when they were down double digits at half. They ended up putting all of their backups into the starting lineup, and they went on a run against Winthrop with those backups in place. And when you look at Purdue, this is a team that coming off of the last 2 years where they had Zach Edey down low, dominating the paint, have truly kind of had an identity switch. Kaufman-Wren hasn't really been able to replicate what obviously Zach Edey could do down low. And although I think that Braden Smith is a very good player, I do wonder about his long-term prospects with him being the guy. And for that reason, I absolutely love High Point in this matchup. I'm so willing to take those 9.5 points here for 4 units. And for an additional full unit, I'm willing to bet the full game money line here as well. For pick number 7, we're heading out to a game between McNeese State and Clemson. And when you're looking at McNeese, this was a team that was probably the easiest pick to win their conference tournament out of all of the conferences because McNeese has been on an absolute collision course to get back here after getting bounced last season in pretty embarrassing fashion. And when you're looking at this matchup here against Clemson, I think they match up extremely well. I think they have the guard talent that actually surpasses Clemson and what they can throw at them in this matchup here. And in terms of the coaching advantage, Brownell versus Will Wade, don't quote me on it, but I think that Will Wade is going to end up having the more successful career when we look back at things here in 10 years or so. And for that reason, I am so willing to back McNeese State getting the 7.5 points here for 3.5 units. And for an additional full unit, let's go ahead and place it on the outright money line here as well. For pick number 8, we are heading out to a really fun matchup here between Yale and Texas A&M. And we're looking at this matchup. Yale was our team last season. We called the Auburn upset when Yale hit that crazy last-second 3 with John Poulikaitis. And, man, they were returning a lot of guys. Obviously, Danny Wolf is now at Michigan, but James Jones is still the head coach. They have Bez Mbang. They obviously have John Poulikaitis still in the lineup. And this has been a very talented team all season long running through the Ivy League. But when you do look at this matchup here, they're no longer sneaking up on anybody. And what people really do forget, I think, about that Yale-Auburn game is that Yale was pretty much out of it for most of the game. They were getting punched in the mouth early and often, and that lead actually got extended out to double digits at multiple points. But Yale battled back, to their credit, because they do have one of the best shooters in this tournament field in John Poulikaitis. But in this matchup here, I do think that Texas A&M and that Buzz Williams style of defense is going to prove to be a serious issue for a Yale team with that style of ball. And for that reason, I am willing to lay the 7.5 points here for 2 units for our 8th play here in the NCAA tournament. For pick number 9, let's go ahead and head out to that Montana-Wisconsin game. And when you are looking at Montana, this is a team that I think really overexceeded expectations this season in conference play, and heck, even in non-con play as well, with kind of a makeshift lineup of guys from multiple different stops. But when you are looking at their prospects against a team like Wisconsin, I don't love them. And even Wisconsin, when you look at this team, yes, they have gotten bounced early in a lot of NCAA tournaments under Greg Gard, but I think the most recent one against James Madison in round 1, where they were the 5 seed to go down to a 12, I think that's still lingering with this team and with this program. And I think that Wisconsin really amped up everything, got more athletic in the offseason, got more talented in the offseason. And in this matchup, I don't think they're going to be taking Montana lightly. And for that reason, let's go ahead and lay the 16.5 points here for 4 units for our 9th bet here in the NCAA tournament. For pick number 10, we are heading out to one of my favorite games here in round 1 between VCU and BYU. And when you're looking at VCU, this is a team that I think can make a Final Four or an Elite 8 push this season. I've been a believer since day 1 in this team. I absolutely love their makeup. I think Ryan Odom is obviously a great coach. He's done it at multiple stops, whether it's UMBC, Utah State, or now VCU. And I do think that VCU is going to be out to make a statement here in March. And they're getting 3 points against a BYU team that can really shoot themselves out of any game. We just saw them do it against Houston and get blown out, in the Big 12 tournament. And I think that VCU can replicate that, if not keep it within the number. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and take those 3 points here for 5 units for our biggest bet here in the NCAA tournament round 1. All right, for our final bet here on Thursday of the NCAA tournament, we are taking a look at a matchup between UC San Diego and Michigan. And when you're looking at this matchup here, UC San Diego, much like a High Point, is a very power of friendship, in quotes, kind of team where they have a lot of depth, they have a lot of guys that act in unison, and no real individual star talent to really point at and say, that's the guy. But I think that's going to serve to their benefit because they're playing a team in Michigan that doesn't really have one individual killer. And heck, you want to talk about these 7-foot guys that Michigan has down low with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. Well, hey, UC San Diego just took on UC Irvine and Bent Luchin, who's also a 7-footer as well. And not only did they keep him in check, they had a great game plan. They fired away threes. They made a lot of jumpers from outside of the paint. And I do think that UC San Diego is going to be able to get up and win this game. But again, they're catching 3 points. I say we take them for 4 units for our final bet here on Thursday. All right, so let's go ahead and turn our page over to Friday of round one, and let's take a look at that matchup between Colorado State and Memphis. And we are looking at Colorado State. This is a team that finished the season 20-4, truly one of the best coaching jobs in all of the country this past season, with Nico Medved just coaching his ass off. I mean, they came into the season in the wake of Isaiah Stevens, the best player in program history, having lost him to graduation. And at the start of the year, it was very, very shaky. They weren't really playing quality basketball, but they finished their season winning 20 of their last 24 games. And obviously, they won the conference championship game as well. They didn't put it in the committee's hands. They just went out there and got it done. And I do think that it's very telling when you look at the line in this game that Colorado State is the favorite despite being the 12 seed taking on the 5. And we have seen this line in past years. It always is pretty indicative when you look at the results of that game. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and lay it with Colorado State here for 4 units for our first bet here on Friday. For pick number 2, let's head out to that game between Grand Canyon and Maryland. And obviously last year, Grand Canyon and Bryce Drew behind Tyon Grant Foster ended up picking off St. Mary's in the first round as a 12 seed. And now they're in a very similar position against a team in Maryland that doesn't have a ton of depth. And honestly, I'm not somebody that actually really values depth a whole lot in the NCAA tournament unless it's quality depth. And in this matchup in particular, I do feel like we're going to get a ball game. And I do think that Grand Canyon, given their athleticism, given their scoring output, can potentially even jump on Maryland very, very early in the game. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and take the 11.5 points here for 3 units. And for a full extra unit, let's go ahead and bet the full game money line here as well. All right, next up, let's go out to that UConn-Oklahoma game. And we're looking at this matchup here. UConn is a team that we've been openly fading all season long. It has paid fantastic dividends because they are still catching lines as if they are even akin or even in the same ballpark to the last 2 years that this program has experienced. And they are just flat out not. They are a shell of those teams. I know that they're well coached still, but before these past 2 years, UConn is a team that struggled in the NCAA tournament to even get past the first round. And in this matchup in particular, I actually really do think that Oklahoma is the better team, and I do think that they have a chance to win it outright, but they're getting 4.5 points. We don't even need them to win it outright to cover, and for that reason, I say we go ahead and take them for 3 units for our third bet here on Friday. For pick number 4, we're heading out to that game between Robert Morris and Alabama. And obviously we had a really nice future on Robert Morris to win the Horizon League. And I can't tell you how impressed I have been with this team all season long. Andy Toole absolutely deserves this kind of success. And I get it. Alabama is one of those teams that if everything is clicking right for them, they could run Robert Morris off the floor by 30. But that can be said about literally any team in the field. I do think that Alabama's peak performance is a lot better than a lot of teams. Now, that being said, Alabama plays one of those volatile styles that can, translate to them just shooting themselves out of games. We have seen this with Nate Oates time and time again, whether it was with Buffalo or now with Alabama, and not in just conference tournament games, not in the regular season, but also in the NCAA tournament as well. And I totally get it. I think there's a really good chance that they obviously win this game, but Robert Morris has the guards. They also have quality size. They also have 5 players on the court that can spread you out and hit shots and really create a lot of problems. And they have athletic guys as well that can match up with a team in Alabama that was pretty much created from the mid-major ranks. When you look at Grant Nelson, Mark Sears, Chris Youngblood, all of these guys came from the likes of Kennesaw State, North Dakota State, and Ohio. And I do feel like that gets discounted this time of year because a lot of people just look at these matchups and look at these programs and think that Robert Morris doesn't have dudes. Well, they definitely have dudes. I think they're the best 15 seed on this line, and I really do think that they're going to have a chance to upset Alabama outright. Last time we bet on a 15 seed on the money line, it was Princeton 2 years ago against Arizona. That came to fruition. Well, hey, we are going back to the well and trying our hand again. So let's go ahead and take those 22.5 points here with Robert Morris for 4 units. And for an additional full unit, let's go ahead and bet on the Colonials on the money line for our 4th bet here on Friday. For pick number 5, we are heading out to a really fun matchup between New Mexico and Marquette. And when you're looking at this game here, New Mexico unfortunately fell flat against Clemson last season in round 1. It was very, very disappointing because I really believed in that New Mexico squad, but they've got another great chance at it this year, and the first team standing in their way is Marquette. And Marquette is a team that I'm not unwilling to fade this time of year despite being really well coached, because they really do struggle in a lot of these small ball type of areas with things like hitting free throws down the stretch or just making quality possessions happen down the stretch. And even though we did see them come back against Xavier in the Big East tournament, there's a lot of questions that I have about this Marquette team, and they're laying 4 points in this matchup. I don't want any part of those 4 points of being laid. I actually want to take them because that's a possession and a point, and I do think that New Mexico makes this thing a ball game late. So let's go ahead and take the Lobos for 2 units for our 5th bet here on Friday. For pick number 6, we are heading out to that Vanderbilt St. Mary's game, and I do think this is going to end up being a really fun ball game. Vanderbilt under Mark Byington this year have been really impressive in a lot of different spots. They also have come up a little bit flat in some spots as well because I think they are very reliant on their guard play. But at the same time, I think those guards can get hot at any time, and we're getting a sizable buffer here with 4.5 points against the St. Mary's team, by the way, that I don't necessarily trust to just kind of lay a bunch of points on Vanderbilt. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and take those 4.5 points here for 2 units for our 6th bet here on Friday. All right, for our final bet here in the NCAA tournament, we're heading out to a game between Liberty and Oregon. And we're looking at this matchup here. Oregon is a team that I think ends up getting it done when it's all said and done in this matchup. But this team has played with fire all season long, and Liberty is a team that will not die. They have shown several times in the CUSA this season that if they are down double digits or down late, they have the guys who can make shots and make shots in a hurry. They are kind of defined by their guard play and by their three-making ability. That's always been the case under Richie McKay, and I do feel like the Liberty Flames at least give us a chance at a cover and even a chance at an outright winner when it's all said and done. I don't like the money line price to bet the money line, but I am willing to take those 6.5 points here for 2 units for our final bet here in round 1. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video, and I want to give you guys a massive shout out for just sticking with me all season long. It's all culminated to this point. We have nothing but great teams left, and we are also going to have a futures episode in the NCAA tournament. We'll also have episodes pertaining to the other postseason tournaments that are going on as well. And also, if I have any additional bets in terms of the playing games end up, having that result go final and then having the next round, finalized for Friday or for Thursday, be on my Twitter/X page at RobDFB, because there is a chance that we're going to have a bet in those games and I might not make a video on it. So again, for any bets that I don't include in this round 1 video, be just tuning into my Twitter/X and you will see me post them if we end up having plays. But with all that being said, y'all, let's have a great NCAA tournament. I am so excited. And as I always say, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.